Hey, what is up, Phone Dags? BoHD here, and I've got my hands on the LG G Flex 2. Now, the LG G Flex 2 is one of the few smartphones currently on the market to feature a curved display, the most popular being the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge and the recently announced Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. But unlike those two devices, the G Flex 2 does things a little bit differently, as it has a curved display that's curved around the horizontal axis, and this does a few different things. So first of all, it doesn't sit flat on a table. It sort of creates a bowl shape, at least when it's sitting on its back, but it does fit the natural curve of your hand, and it really does feel great when you're holding the device. You also have better access to the rear-facing buttons, which LG is kind of famous for. All of the volume controls and the power button, it's all located on the back below the 13 megapixel camera sensor, as well as the laser autofocus sensor and even the dual LED flash. In fact, there's not a lot going on around the LG G Flex 2. There's nothing on the left-hand side, for example, and there's nothing on the right-hand side. There's an IR blaster located up on the top and a micro USB charging port down below on the bottom, along with a 3.5mm headphone jack. The front is home to a 5.5-inch 1080p curved POLED display, which I will definitely touch more on here in a moment. The front of the device looks very similar to an LG G3, although it is a tad bit taller. Now, I mentioned it really does fit well in the hand, but LG has decided to put this glossy, reflective, self-healing back panel coating on the plastic back cover, and I really have mixed feelings on it. It looks really good when there's no fingerprints and when it's nice and clean, but I just don't like the way it feels. It feels very slimy, and there's no denying the fact that it feels like plastic because it is made of plastic. The good news, though, is that it can heal against small scratches, and you can remove the back cover and have access to a micro SD card slot and SIM card slot, but you cannot change or swap out the battery with the LG G Flex 2, unfortunately. So I would say it's worth it having a plastic back cover to be able to swap out the battery, but since you can't do that, I would have liked to have seen a more premium build material. The display is one of my favorite aspects of this device because it not only looks good, but it's also proof that you don't need a QHD display in a flagship smartphone. In fact, unless I hold it next to a QHD display, I cannot tell the difference, and when I hold it to, say, the LG G3, which does have a 2K resolution display, I still prefer the LG G Flex 2 because I love the deep blacks it's able to produce with the OLED technology. The colors are just very warm, but they're not overly vibrant. The whites don't give off any sort of yellow tint to them, which is always one thing that I look for and test for specifically. Overall, it's a very solid display. It's not the best out there, but it's far from the worst, and it really does help conserve power and prolong the battery life with the OLED technology, along with the less number of pixels. Also, the slight curve of the display makes scrolling through lists a lot of fun, actually, and yes, you can notice the curve. It does alter the depth and make everything appear slightly 3D, and one would think that it would be most noticeable when watching videos, but I actually found it more noticeable when scrolling down the notification panel or like looking through my music, for example. I mean, watching videos on this display looks great, but I don't think it's because of the curve so much as it is just the display itself. I mean, there's really not much of a noticeable difference, especially when compared to a traditional flat display. But the curve is cool, it's futuristic, and that's about it. The G Flex 2 is also running the latest and greatest Qualcomm processor, the Snapdragon 810 octa-core processor paired with 3GB of RAM, and I'm really split on this as well because, yeah, it's fast. I can feel that there's some serious power underneath of the hood, as you know, the multitasking overview tab opens up quickly, and I can switch between apps with little problems at all, and apps in general just open up very fast. There are also some visually stunning elements thanks to Android 5.0 Lollipop, which does not only look pretty, but it helps the device run better than if it were running Android KitKat. But I'm really not much of a fan of the software LG threw on top of Android 5.0 Lollipop. I don't think it looks particularly bad, but it doesn't run particularly well. LG has not only changed the app drawer, but they've changed how the notification panel looks. They've changed how the settings drawer looks, they've changed how the 3 navigation buttons look, the 3 software navigation icons, for example, are enlarged, and they've even changed the lock screen. Now, I found a really annoying bug that hopefully will be fixed in a future update, but right now, you can't interact with the notifications on the lock screen, like you can with just about any other Android device. Usually you double tap the notification or you swipe one way to open it up, but every time you do that on the LG G Flex 2, it prompts you to swipe to unlock the device, and swiping from left to right on the notification just dismisses them, so that was pretty annoying. There's really no way you can open up the notification from the lock screen. The good news is that this is Android and many of the aesthetics can be altered with a launcher, so if you don't like how something looks, you will most likely be able to change it. The LG G Flex 2 also does feature a 13 megapixel camera sensor with a laser autofocus sensor to help it take faster and more accurate pictures, and there is also a dual LED flash, but the sensor itself is the same sensor found in the LG G3, and it's still very capable of capturing some amazing shots. If you remember last year, the LG G3 had one of the top 5 camera sensors of the year, and so it's not a bad thing at all to see it in the LG G Flex 2. It's capable of capturing some very detailed images with some good dynamic range and depth of field. If you're coming from, say, the LG G Flex, the camera will be hugely improved. If you're at all familiar with the LG G3 or you are using the LG G3, then you will find a very similar experience. I will note that the 4K UHD video footage is good, but moving it can be slightly blurry, something that a lot of you guys pointed out in my test footage. The LG G Flex 2 also does have a 3000 mAh battery, which is significantly smaller than the 3500 mAh battery found in the original LG G Flex. And yes, the battery life just isn't quite as good. You will not be able to get 2 days of use with this device, but you will be able to get through a single day with moderate to heavy usage. As for the speaker on the G Flex 2, it's located on the back, and it's decent. You can get by, but it's nothing special, and it definitely does not compare to front-facing speakers. Now, what's really cool about the LG G Flex 2 is that it's a very durable device. So it's made of plastic, meaning it can indeed flex. So whether you're carrying it around in your pocket or you accidentally sit on it or whatever, it will flex and it will bend, and you won't have to worry about it. Unlike some other devices out there that when they bend and stay bent. So to sum up the LG G Flex 2, yes, it is better than the original LG G Flex, but not in every single way. For example, the battery is smaller, and the display and the overall size of the device is smaller than the original G Flex, making it just more manageable and easier to use for the majority of people. It also features a higher resolution display. It's a 1080p display panel as opposed to a 720p display panel. It also has a faster processor, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 octa-core processor, and it has some newer software, Android 5.0 Lollipop to be specific, which does in its own offer a ton of new features and enhancements over previous versions of Android. Also it has a microSD card slot, which is great for if you want to expand the storage, and I know that's very popular and huge for a lot of you guys. With that said, I still would have liked to have seen LG do more with the G Flex 2. For example, I want them to get rid of this plastic slimy back cover that they've kind of been slapping on most of their smartphones the last couple of years. I think it's time to go and get rid of that because it just doesn't feel very good in the hand, and it kind of makes it feel cheap. Granted, it does help make this device actually flex, but I would much rather have a more premium build material. I also want them to do more with the software. Now, it's running Android 5.0 Lollipop, like I mentioned, but the custom LG skin on top of Android 5.0 is just pretty stale, and it needs to be optimized, or at least better optimized, with the Snapdragon processor, because right now it's just kind of all over the place. I get some performance hiccups here and there, some stuttering. Sometimes it's blazing fast, but other times not so much. I would have also liked to have seen the battery swappable. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video that you can in fact remove the back cover, but you can't swap out the battery, which to me doesn't really make sense. I feel like if you have a removable back cover, you should be able to swap in an extra battery or replace the battery, put in a new one, but that's not the case here, so that's kind of a disappointment. And the curved display itself, I think is really cool. It's futuristic, it's kind of unique, but it really doesn't add too much. Now, we don't have all the prices available just yet for the G Flex 2. I do know that Sprint is selling it for $500 off contract, give or take, and about $200 on contract, which I think is a very fair price for this device, actually. If the price is much higher than $500 or $600 off contract universally throughout all the carriers here in the US, then it's going to be kind of hard to recommend this device, especially now that Samsung is coming out with the Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge. and even HTC and the One M9. I think it's going to be kind of hard for this guy to compete and get some attention among those other big manufacturers. But once again, if the price is low and you guys don't mind the kind of slimy plastic back cover, then I definitely recommend this device, and it could very well be your next phone. If you guys want to buy the Korean model early like I did for whatever reason, I'll leave a link to the valuebasket.com listing down below in the description bar if you guys want to check it out. I think they offer some of the most competitive pricing available, once again, for the Korean models. So you guys can check that out down below in the description bar. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the LG G Flex 2. Let me know what your thoughts are of this device by leaving me a comment down below. And as always, I'm BoHD. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.